Wow.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, that makes me so happy. It took 3 years to get here. I was like, oh my God, I got a tear in my eye. How excited.
We talked about an intro to this show, what, 2 years ago? Like during season 1?
Easily. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Everyone, welcome to the newest season of Unscripted with Allie and Jen, the promotion season. And oh my gosh, y'all, we have up-leveled this to like a whole new level.
we have book. We have a website.
We have branding. We have a background. We have an intro and an outro. Stick around for that. And we have a mug and mascots.
We do. And my mascot is currently roaming on the desk over here.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see mine come in or not. She might have been freaked out by the loudness of what was just happening.
It was very loud. I will agree.
So everyone, welcome to season 3. This is the first episode of the new year. I'm Allie and I'm here with Jen, and we are really, really pumped for this season. So Jen, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about what we're doing this year, because it is a little bit different than the last 2 seasons.
It is a little bit different. So in the last few seasons, which thankfully we have our new website. So if you would like to go back and check out any past episode, or there's a specific topic that you're looking for, everything is laid out very easily to find. It's also available, on our YouTube channels and all those things. However, this is the promotion season. So what we are doing this year is that we are using my new book, Promote Your Purpose. You have the first copy in your hands, which I love so much. I have the pretty copy behind me, but I have my very messy, really.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Folks, let me just talk about the coloring here that's happening. Like it's a gorgeous book.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I put a lot of effort into making it look as gorgeous as she is. And there are 12 chapters in this book. It is Promote Your Purpose. It is a strategic guide for nonfiction, for book marketing for nonfiction authors who want to grow their impact, influence, and income. So we are going to take the 12 chapters from this book, and we have decided to do 1 chapter per month and use you, Allie, as a live in real-time case study for all things book marketing with both of your books, which I am really excited about because you have both your nonfiction book and a memoir. So if someone, if you're tuning in and you're like, oh, well, I have a memoir, guess what? So does Allie. Or, oh, mine's nonfiction. Guess what? Also Allie. So here we are to walk through and just kind of show kind of the evolution of what it looks like to like really think about marketing from a sustainable way. This isn't going to be a let's try these crazy new things that haven't been proven or tested. This is very much grounded in reality and sustainability and how can we do this without losing our minds, because most of the time book marketing is secondary to all the other things and ways in which we're showing up in life.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so folks, here's the deal. Number 1, if you're here already live with us, we would love to see you in the comments. Okay. So one of the things that we have built into this season has been some live coaching. So not only do you get us all year long with tangible things for you to try with your marketing promotion, but you also get the chance to chat with us and get your questions answered in real time when you show up to these live episodes. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you want to leave a comment because you're watching it after the live, we will go back and we will respond to those comments. And of course, you will also be able to reach us at any point. I think how to connect with us is on that same webpage. Jen, can you pull up that? Yeah. So unscriptedforauthors.com, you'll find where to connect with us. You will also have the ability to download a free workbook, okay, that goes with Jen's new book. And you don't even need the book. I mean, you should get it, but you don't even need the book in order to get the free workbook and get use out of the free workbook and understand what we are doing here month after month for the year of 2026. Hello, Christy. Good morning.
Oh, I love Christy. I love that you were the first person who's like welcoming us into our new season. Yes. And Christy got her ebook yesterday. I sent an email yesterday with the ebook. So
nice.
Hopefully she'll
follow along. All right. So we've given you the preview, both.
All of the above. Who works with words, not us.
For season 3, but today is episode 1. And episode 1, we are focusing on Purpose and impact. Yes.
Yes. Hang on. There we go. Find your purpose, build your book, and start your impact, because it's not just about us as the author. It's about the books that we're building, the movements we're building, the communities that we're creating, and all the other good stuff that comes around it. So we have to start with purpose.
Yes. Love it.
Yep.
Hi, Diane.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be early in Vancouver, like 7.
Yeah, good for you.
Good.
I love Vancouver.
Diane. Oh my gosh. Obviously taking the year by storm. Clearly.
Look at us. Clearly. I know, 7 a.m. Like, good for you.
Oh,
That's dedication. I love it.
Oh my gosh. So where do we begin, Jen, in terms of thinking about purpose and book and impact and like setting the foundation for marketing?
Okay. So the easiest thing to think through is having your purpose be your North Star and really be an anchor to everything else that you are doing. You will see that over the next 12 months, we're going to have a very clear arc, and we're starting at the very, very beginning and the very, very early foundation of this. We could immediately dive into all of the great things that you've already been doing with your books or that I've been doing with my books, but we really want to start with purpose and impact and what we want to create for other people, not just ourselves, but we want to be looking at it from both angles. So when we're thinking about purpose, it's, you know, it doesn't have to be this grandiose, huge thing. Because I think a lot of times people think purpose and they think it has to be this, maybe some kind of noble cause that they're doing. And it could be that your purpose is that you want to help one person have some sort of transformation as a result of reading your book. Your purpose could also be, I want to get out of this corporate job that I have, and I want my book to be the starting point to that pathway. It really doesn't have to be these kind of like giant things. So I want to start, because we planned this. We obviously have all our merch. We've got all kinds of good stuff this year. However, we did not actually plan how the episode was going to go itself. So I think just kind of throwing it to you to ask you like what your initial responses or kind of impact, and thinking about what you thought your purpose was before reading chapter 1 versus what you think your purpose is now. Like, did it change? Is it still the same? That's kind of where I'm curious.
Yeah. Okay. So before I do that, what I want to say is like when I'm coaching memoir in particular, although this will also work for nonfiction, I talk about something called the memoir compass. And the memoir compass stands for motivation, mission, and message. And for me, motivation and mission are basically two pieces of purpose. Motivation is for the author, like what's the driver for you in particular as the author with this book? And mission is like, what do you want it to do for your reader? Right? And so that's how I talk about purpose. And that's how I talk about using that as a driver and filter of intention when you're developing a manuscript. Now, here's the truth. And this goes back to the question you just asked me about my books. I was not necessarily thinking 100% in that language when I worked on Dear Universe, I Get It Now, which was my memoir that came out in 2020. I was thinking about that a little bit more intentionally when I was working on Do Not Write a Book Until You Read This One with my co-author, Bridget McGowan, because I wasn't working in a vacuum by myself, right? There was somebody else that was a part of this creative project. It was a partnership. We needed to be on the same page. We needed to talk about things like, what do we want this to do for us, the reader, in order for it to make sense? Yeah. So what I can say is that the way that I look at Dear Universe now is different than when I did it then, because I'm more seasoned, more tenured, like have more language to understand what I was doing and what my process was. Do Not Write a Book, I think, has been it's remained more or less the same, I think. So what I did is when I was turning to the workbook and getting ready for today's episode, and it's okay, folks, if you haven't gotten the workbook yet and you want to go and get it afterwards. But what I did was I developed a little table for myself here where my two books were on the left, and then I put purpose and impact across the top. So if you want to see how like I did this, I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay. So shorthand down here is Dear Universe, and then Do Not Write a Book, right? And then under purpose, what I did was I put an E for external and an I for internal.
Love it.
To think about, okay, what was I meaning for myself, internal? What was I meaning for others, which is external? And so honestly, Dear Universe began, this was my initial, my initial thing that I used to tell myself was it's a marketing stunt.
Oh, interesting phrasing. Stunt.
Stunt. Yeah.
Okay.
The exact phrasing that I used. Marketing stunt. Okay. And which is so awful because stunt sounds so scammy and unintentional
And diminishing.
and diminishing. But I was calling it a stunt because I was trying to quiet fear, to be perfectly honest. I was trying to quiet fear and doubt. I was really convinced that I had no business trying to do this thing. Who was going to care about what I had to say? Yet obviously, at the same time, my deeper knowing was like, you need to do this. Like, you need to do this for you. This is what you've always wanted to do. Was write a book, have your name on it. You want to work with people in this space. How are you going to do that if you haven't done it yourself, learned the things, been in the hot seat, all that stuff? But to quiet and to dampen
Sure.
that fear and doubt,
Yeah.
like I called it a marketing stunt because it took the charge out of it.
Wow.
Right. Until my husband, well, he wasn't my husband at the time, he's my husband now, looked at me one day in the car and he said, you need to stop calling it that.
Yeah.
And it hit me like, right. And he was like, you are fulfilling a dream that you've had since you were 5.
Yeah.
It's not a stunt. Like, why are you cheapening what you're doing by calling it a stunt? And that was the first time that internal purpose or motivation shifted. Somebody else calling me out for my BS. Right.
Yeah.
And so then I realized that it was actually realizing a dream. It was honoring my experiences. It was honoring the path that I've been on to get to exactly where I was, even taking this project on. And honestly, at that point, what I thought was the purpose externally was proving to people that I could do this, proving that I could do it for them because I had done it for myself.
Yeah.
But that has shifted. And now I really see it more as them getting to see themselves in someone else's story. Which is far more meaningful and far deeper than just like them being able to say, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Yeah. Yeah. So that's Dear Universe. That's the story behind Dear Universe.
That I would imagine is very relatable to others that are working on memoirs. Maybe not calling it a marketing stunt, because I think marketing is often the last word that anyone wants to bring into a conversation related to books, period. Like, even when you're good at marketing, I think everyone just is like, that's the last thing. So it's interesting that evolution kind of occurred, because when we anchor ourselves in our purpose, it is so much easier to talk about, because now we realize this book isn't about me. This book is about how it's creating transformation in someone else. So I think if maybe a distilled down takeaway from all of that is, if you're struggling with that visibility or exposure or putting it out on the paper, if anyone's kind of struggling with that, it's thinking about, okay, this isn't about me. I yes, it's my words, it's my story. I'm putting it on the page. I'm putting all the effort in, but it's not about me. It's never about us as the authors. It's always about the reader, always. And I feel like it's really hard to see the differentiation between the two when we're in the thick of the emotions around all of this.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to tell clients is that memoir is meant to transcend from you to them to us. Meaning it might start with you. It's your story. It's your words. It's whatever process you have to go through to like get the words down the page and to feel comfortable being vulnerable to share like your whole self. But at the end of the day, it needs to transcend beyond like you in a vacuum, and it needs to mean something to the person on the other page. And they need to be able to resonate with it. They need to be able to see themselves in it. They need to understand the bigger meaning, so that they're not just reading a story about you, they're actually reading a story about themselves. Like, that's the power of memoir. And when you can get it to transcend from you to one other person, then it has the power to actually ripple effect out and become like the us. like hit more of the collective or like the larger public. I think the reason that marketing stunt kept coming up is because the thing that everybody always says is like, oh, a book is just a really expensive business card, right? And so it has that kind of energy of like, oh, it's a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Right. Which again, it worked to get me started, right? To kind of like temper the doubt and the fear. But it wasn't actually truly honest.
Yeah.
Like it lacked depth and it lacked merit.
Yeah. And before we move on to do not write a book, I think what's powerful for people to kind of take away from this too is that you are in the industry. And even then, as you were working on putting your memoir on paper, you were having this struggle, right? So like you're working with people with the same struggle, and yet you were not immune to it. Because I say that all the time. Like I'm never immune to all the things that I talk about all the time. That doesn't make me immune from any of them, especially the emotional side of things. So I think it's just good because then people can say, all right, well, if Allie struggled with figuring some part of this out, or Jen struggled with it, like it's like, okay, all right. Like if they're struggling and they're the experts, it's okay if I'm struggling too. I think there's like a little bit of permission granted. Like if you're in the struggle phase with your book right now, it's okay. Like it's just part of the process.
100%. And the struggle didn't change. Like it was different, but there was still struggle. Like with do not write a book until you read this one. So that's prescriptive nonfiction. It's intended to be like a one-stop shop reference guide for the indie nonfiction author who's writing a book and we wanted to do it well. It's the twin of yours, the fraternal twin of Publish Your Purpose, which is the book that precedes the one that we're talking about this season. And that one was very clearly the internal motivation for myself and my co-author was that we wanted to be considered credible within the industry, right? It was a credibility booster. It was being the thought leader. It was being, known in the industry and people looking to us, knowing that we were reputable people. We knew what we were doing. We knew what we were talking about. Internally, authority, like being able to say I'm an authoritative figure within this space, right? But even saying like that's what I want it to do, you have all that imposter syndrome. Am I really an authority figure? People have been here longer. People have done more. Like nobody even knows who the hell I am. Like, and so the struggle of like with fear and doubt was still there, even though I can more clearly pinpoint what the motivation was. It still takes some practice to like step in and say, no, I am the authority of this topic. Yeah. Right. And you can still feel that doubt and that imposter syndrome. I don't think that we ever just kind of like lose it. But it can still be a part of knowing that that's the answer while also having a little bit of that discomfort. I mean, that's growth, right? Growth is discomfort. And to come out and say, yep, I'm an expert in this field. Here's my book on it. It feels like taking a huge leap and a huge step into like the next level of what it means to be an expert.
And I think that that's where a lot of people struggle too, because it's like, and I was just trying to look up quickly, like where we will discuss imposter syndrome in more detail, because there's absolutely more detail coming, because I can't write a book without discussing imposter syndrome to some degree. Yeah. And it is that friction that you were talking about. It's like having that doubt and then doing it anyway. So but it is really hard to be like, especially when we're writing nonfiction, because when we're writing nonfiction, 9 out of 10 times it is for some level of credibility and authority. There's some component of it. Whereas memoir, sometimes it's just like, I have to get this like aching story off my chest. And I want to help somebody else just not have the same experience. Like I think a lot of times that tends to be like a deep rooted, at least part of someone's purpose when it comes to memoir. But nonfiction, there's a much more strategic reason in it. And I hate when people think of it as like a glorified business card, because it is a lot of freaking work to put a book together. So like, good grief. There are obviously people who take shortcuts and produce very small books that are very much the definition of what that phrase I think actually means. But, it's the authority piece and it's visibility. I think that is something that I write a lot about throughout this entire book, is that wrestling with visibility, because the more writing you have, the more you're doing with the book, and the more the book is out there doing something for you, the more visible you become. And our nervous systems are not wired well for visibility, because when we think about visibility, it's like our brain and our body are like, I'm under attack. Someone might not like me, or all of these kind of like stories that we tell ourselves. So it's this constant like check and balance with like, okay, I'm safe. Like there's nothing wrong. Nothing is trying to kill me right now. Like I am safe. It is just that someone reviewed my book and they didn't love it as much as I did, or someone talked about my book on a podcast and it wasn't the way that I would want them to talk about it. We have to let go of all of those we have to let go of all that, because what someone thinks about our book really to a large degree is none of our business. Very much like what someone thinks about us as a person is none of our business. It's kind of the same thing. So, but that is so much easier said than done. I think this is really the hardest part, which is why starting with purpose and wanting to know. And I love how your compass works, because it's exactly the same thing. Like per usual, we're saying the exact same thing, just slightly different ways, where it's just like, what's the internal, what's the external. So I love that you kind of like broke it down that way, because now you can say, all right, when something happens, or inevitably, I cannot tell you how many authors I've talked to, and this is probably the same with you, where they'll say, oh, I was at a family gathering and I told so-and-so that I was working on a book, and whoever that so-and-so was not supportive. They had some disparaging comment of some kind of like, who are you to do this? What makes you special? This, that, like any number of things. And that immediately just throws us so far off course, because it is a family member. It's someone close to us. We like really respect and trust their opinion, even when it's not in our best interest. And that's why having a purpose to anchor back into is so important, because we can say, you know what? It's not about that cranky family member who has, something in their craw for whatever reason about me doing this. We can say, you know what? It's not about me. It's about the readers I'm trying to create the transformation for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, people love to suck the wind out of other people's sails. And I think that when you do have that strong sense of like, this is why I'm doing that. It doesn't necessarily mean that like that initial shock of like, I can't believe that this person who supposedly loves me is being so unsupportive right now or whatever. But it can at least anchor or ground you back into, okay, there is a reason for this. Maybe it's going to be challenging. Maybe I'm not going to get the support from the places that I thought that I was going to, but that doesn't discredit what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's trying to remember that discredit. And it's also, it's something that's very tactical, but just thinking about like, is this person even my target reader? Like sometimes, especially on the nonfiction side of things, like we can kind of quiet the noise a little bit, because everyone on the internet has opinions about everything. And, we always have to take things with a grain of salt. But if someone's like really out there, just like, leaving negative comments or something on maybe some kind of marketing or promotional things that you're doing in relation to your book, and it's like, are they even who I'm trying to reach? The answer is probably no. I'm willing to bet anything that the answer is no. So we just kind of have to like leave the haters behind. But it goes back to that visibility piece. So it's like, how do we show up visibly and confidently and owning what the authority that we're trying to create, while also maintaining just kind of like our autonomy and our nervous system, and not allowing it to completely hijack us, which it loves to do.
Right. And if you don't think about this at the beginning, right, then likely that hijacking is going to rock you, and it's going to throw you off course a lot faster, right? So the reason we're starting here, this year, this season, at the very beginning, is because like having this anchor point of your why, it not only helps you stay the course when the challenges and adversity come, but without it, your messaging and your tactics are probably going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Right? You need this to understand where you're going. Truthfully, I think last year in our second season, we talked about understanding your purpose before you write the manuscript, right? So it's no different when it comes to marketing and promotion. You also want to understand the purpose of that book, and you want to understand what you're trying to do with that book in order to have a good strategy that aligns with the overall motivation and goal that you have. So like, let's segue to that, Jen. let's talk a little bit about how knowing the purpose of your book or strategy, how that simplifies messaging and visibility and like what you choose to do to promote your book.
Yeah. And before I answer that, I want to say hi to Lynn Ellen Miller, who said hello. Looks forward to reconnecting me as well. And then Christy, who's saying, love the concept of realizing that your family is probably not your target reader. I've had family pushback on my story. Too bad for them because they're missing a great book. Agree on all fronts. Yeah. Christy, if I am being honest, I was thinking about you as I was saying that. So, but we just have to remember those things. So thinking about like the next steps, right? Like, and we're going to cover all this in a lot of detail. You can see like even how much detail we're going into purpose. And I know you and I never have a shortage of words. We could talk about all of these things for days and days and days. However, if we're thinking about purpose and we're thinking about that connection point to what those next steps are, when we know what our purpose is, regardless of how deep or carefully curated that is, like it could just be like, I want, like I said before, I want to prevent somebody from having this experience. That is perfectly fine. It does not have to be super fancy and it doesn't have to be this beautiful purpose statement. It really can just be your chicken scratch on a piece of paper or just something that you're filing away in your brain. Like I really just want people to feel that this doesn't have to be this like big Herculean task, because I think sometimes that's where things really go off the rails, is that when we feel like this is a project or a chore. It's just, this is a feeling. It could just be like an intuitive feeling, and that's cool too, right? When we think about the next steps in terms of the actual marketing and the strategy and like how are we getting, like the ultimate goal, right, is getting the book in the hands of readers. That is truly the bottom line, the number one goal that all of us can say that we share, is that we want more people to read our book. Regardless of how we get there, we want more people to read our book. When we know what our purpose is, all of those different strategies become much more clear. Because say you and I are at a writing conference and we're, in an elevator and we're just chit-chatting, just the two of us, and someone pops into the elevator and they say, "Oh my God, did you hear that panel on radio advertising and how it's like the best new thing for authors?" If you and I don't have a clear sense of what our purpose is, the impact we're going for, what strategy that we want to have, we might say, "Oh, wow, this person, like they were super excited. Maybe I should go do radio advertising." And then I or you go off and just start spending tons of money in radio ads, but we never stop to think, wait a minute, what was my purpose for this? Would this advertising channel actually make sense for me to be advertising on? Like, it's almost like when we don't have that purpose, there's no filter. I think that's probably the best word. There's no filter to think of it of. Versus if someone comes in and they're super excited, we can say, that's interesting. I wonder if my target reader would be listening to something like this or would be participating in something like this. Then we can say, all right, yes, no, whichever direction. And then say, all right, let me go look at my strategy to see, okay, what are the things that I enjoy doing? What are the things that are kind of like in my lane that I want to be doing from a marketing standpoint? And say, does this fit? Because if it fits, it's worth considering. If it very clearly doesn't fit, it's like throw it away and don't look back, because we are so easily, I don't want to say manipulated because it feels a little bit too strong, but we're very easily manipulated as an author community to buying into the next best thing that someone is promising us is going to sell thousands of copies of books. When the reality is that most of this is unproven, and people who do have these like really, it's like lightning in the bottle types of successes, which is why this whole thing has to be anchored in sustainability and just doing this in a clean way that works for us. So I think that's how purpose ties into the bigger strategy.
Yeah. And I think something that you hit on is not just, okay, would my target reader be in that area, right? And will I actually create the impact that I'm hoping to with them by being in that area? But the other really key point is like, what about you? Is that where you want to be? Is that a skill that you already possess? Is that a strength of yours? How big a challenge or uphill battle is it going to be to go learn how to be a radio personality in order to make that one venue or avenue actually work, right? I think we get caught up in maybe this will be the fast track path to something bigger, or so-and-so had success, or I heard that, right? Basically, all of that is like living in comparison land. Like, oh, they did it so that I should do it, or I could do it, or like maybe that's the way forward, right? And it tones out like what you actually believe is your path, but it also makes you convinced that like maybe you need to learn a new skill, or maybe you need to go down this rabbit hole because other people are going down the same rabbit hole. When really you don't know. Maybe they've been on radio before. Maybe they're an avid listener of radio. Maybe their ideal reader loves the radio, right? All of those factors or variables might be true for them, but doesn't make it true for you. And so they might have success that you're not going to see. So it's hard. It's a noisy space, right? With, thousands or millions of books produced every day, right? Yep. Like, and you're now in charge and responsible of representing yours. You want to do the best that you can, but sometimes the best is not what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. And I don't know what chapter specifically this will come up again, is just really aligning our interest in our marketing paths. At some point this year, we will cover that into more detail as well. And I think one thing to think about too is like just thinking about expectations of when we're thinking about purpose and thinking about goals, which goal setting comes next, is what's a reasonable expectation, right? Because if you are saying like, I need to sell 1,000 copies of my book in the first week or month that my book launches, and that is just truly not realistic for you, then setting that goal is only going to serve to defeat and deflate everything that all the energy that you're putting into it. So trying to find just more realistic ways to think about what you're doing, which again is why if you have a good purpose in place, or not even good, a strong purpose in place for you, then when you don't hit that number immediately, you can say, all right, better luck next month. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm going to show up in the places I want to show up. I'm going to be where my people are, and I'm going to do things that feel good for me. We can start to see that momentum kind of go a little bit more. I have a book marketing survey that I did last year that I will be sharing next week. And it's bookmarketingsurvey.com. But one of the things in the survey was basically asking, there's 233 authors that were in it. And it was asking like what your book sales looked like in the first 30 days versus 12 months versus lifetime. And there's obviously always a spike in the first 30 days. But if you look at the graphs in this report, it shows that if you look at over a 12-month period, those bar graphs move very quickly from like up to like 0 to 100 books, from 100 to 500 books. So the point with that is that if you stick to it, maybe you don't have that big spike in the first 30 days, but you will see that graph even out to 500 copies, 1,000 copies, if you're putting consistent effort in over the course of a 12-month period of time. So, or the lifetime of the book, because I think that is also problematic, is that we put all this energy into just launching and then we don't think about it again, which again, if we have a purpose, then we're like, well, we can't just have it launch and then just that be the end of it. Like there's something bigger.
Right. Yeah. I think people really need to think about the fact that like putting all of the emphasis and all of the energy into a successful launch is like sprinting the first half of a mile in a 20K marathon. Okay. Like the book is here forever.
Yeah.
Right. And while we do know that sales tend to be better when the book first releases, if you exhaust yourself focusing so much on pre-orders and then immediate sales after publication date, and you don't have anything left that, of capacity, then you're really missing an opportunity to grow the readership and visibility and sales over the longer term.
Yeah. And it might be slow, and that's okay. Like, I think that we follow people who have millions of followers and they're seeing tens of thousands of book sales. The reality is that is not the majority of authors. The reality is that you might get 3 or 4 sales in a week or a month, or you might get 3 or 4 new subscribers to your mailing list. And that's okay. It's okay to be growing at a significantly slower pace, because it's not an even race.
Yeah. I think the other thing to keep in mind too is that quantity does not always represent quality in anything, right? So let's say in that early launch stage, you get 150 sales, right? And you're super, super pumped. Well, are those 150 people who are going to stick with you, or are they going to read your book, never sign up for your email list, add it to their Goodreads for the year to say that they read a book, right? And move on. Or are the people maybe who are trickling in throughout the 12 months who maybe started following you 6 months ago, right, are engaging with the material, coming over to the website, kind of checking you out, taking their time, right? Are they the person who's going to actually convert into like the longtime fan, the person who's going to be an ambassador of you, your business, your book, right? Like it's hard because books as a business is a metrics game, right? Sales, sales, sales. How many did you sell, right? But when we're thinking about prescriptive nonfiction, especially, and authors who are trying to use those books for credibility and authority and visibility and conversion to clients for their businesses, right? Quantity isn't going to be necessarily the key indicator, right? It's going to be the one person who converts to that high ticket offer, right? That's going to count. And it might take you 50 people to get to the one, but it's going to be the one that's going to truly matter. And the other 49 who didn't do anything, right? Who might have bought the book, but never read it or haven't gotten around to it yet because their reading list is a mile long. Guilty.
Same.
So we have to keep things in perspective. And I think that's also where being anchored and grounded into purpose helps, because rather than get lost in shiny objects or metrics that we think matter, right? It keeps us going back and going, okay, what's my purpose again? What should I really be focusing on? What's actually really important to me? What are my values here? And helping to just kind of take a fucking chill pill. Without putting so much pressure on yourself to like get out there and sell, which has, I think, a completely wrong energy.
I could not agree more. And when, if you just go to our website and get the workbook, you will see even in there that is not the energy. And if you choose to get the book, by all means, you are welcome to. But as we said, you do not need to read it in order to follow along this entire season. But yeah, it's the energy. Like, let's just all take a break, take a beat, calm down, and look at what matters to us, right? Like, just look at what matters to us, because it's all of these experts that are making a ton of money on making you feel inferior that are the ones that are promoting the agenda that sales is the only metric that matters. And I think you put it so well, how that is not the end game. And maybe for some authors, it is the end game. And that's why we have to understand what our purpose is, what our goals are, who we're writing for. And we're going to get into all of that over the next number of months. That's why the more we know about ourselves and who we're going for, the easier all of these decisions will be.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, like if your purpose is like you want to quit your day job and you want writing and being an author to somehow like pay the bills, keep the lights on, whatever, we're talking about a very different game.
Totally.
Right. But that is important to know. If that is the end game, right, then all right, it's a whole other strategy. But if it's not about that, if it's about the business already exists and the book is a funnel to the business, that's a totally different thing. Right. So purpose, folks, you have to understand what you are trying to do with your book. First and foremost, for you, for your reader. You cannot win at this game without having that solidified for yourself. And it's okay for it to change. And it probably will, because you'll change. Your business will change. What you want will change. There will be an evolution. You should reevaluate these things on a periodic basis, like whatever, every 6 months, every year, whatever feels good to you. But you've got to start with some little ounce of clarity to begin with, or you're going to be lost and you're going to get in these traps of like a couple hundred over here for a bestseller campaign, a couple hundred over here for those radio ads that nobody's listening to. Over there on some Instagram reels, when really your audience doesn't even know how to log into Instagram. You've got to get focused. You got to drill it down and take time to do it, because this piece counts. Like, you want to do this part slow so you can speed up later. So like, don't cheat yourself by like thinking that there's some sort of race and there's, a time component. Your book is now there. It's there forever. Right. This is the long game. So don't burn yourself out by thinking that you're going to somehow, shortcut the system and get the results that you want.
Yeah. And also, I think what's important to note, and I know we've talked about this in previous seasons, is that this is just as applicable if you were just starting to write, if you were in the middle of the publishing process, or your book has been out for 1 month or 10 years. You all, like, you still need to do this type of work for all of the other aspects of those processes to be more refined and better off for it. So, like, just because, like, it might be that someone's watching this and they're like, oh, my book's already been out for 10 years. It's okay. Still do this work, because it will still make whatever your strategy looks like different, and it'll make it more aligned and more clear. And, like, it's just so much easier when someone says, hey, why don't you do this? And I can say, no, I don't want to do that because my strategy is this, this, and this. And it clearly doesn't fit, because then it just immediately is like, I'm not doing that. And then you don't have the mental energy you're putting into it. You don't have the pressure that you're putting into it. And you can kind of just feel a little more free. I think that's the thing too, because I think book marketing in general just feels very heavy and very overwhelming, especially for people who are not natural marketers, which does feel like it is most authors. And so if there's ways that we can kind of like drop that baggage instead of carrying it with us, why wouldn't we? Right.
Yeah. So I want to offer a perspective here. Or like a change in thinking. So I think what happens for a lot of authors, it's like marketing is supposed to convert to sales. And so not only are people often not really aware of how to market, because it's not like a skill that we're born with, right? But then to think about having to sell something, for whatever reason, sales has this like super icky kind of like energy. So I think what ends up happening is, even if you're not using the word sell, you're using the word market, like subconsciously that connection is being made, and authors are like, ugh, they want to like say the thing about their story or say the thing about what they know to be true or their expertise or whatever. And they're comfortable there, right? To a degree, because they know themselves or they know their content. But then like there's this other whatever. So what I like to think about is that your book is a conversation starter with potentially your ideal client. And its purpose really is to get them to know, like, and trust you, so that they want to spend time in your world and eventually hopefully buy something. Okay. So like when you think about it that way, sales, it's like way down there. All right. Like you can't even see it yet.
Yeah.
It's really a way of bringing people into your fold. Right? Getting them to understand who you are, what you're about, what you know, that you're reliable, that you're trustworthy, that you are who you say you are from this book, or you know what you're saying that you know, right? So it's a conversation, it's an entry point. I think when people start to think about it that way, it doesn't feel quite as icky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? All right. We're at 15 to the hour. So what I want to do is, we've got some people here who are with us live. If you've got questions, I'd love to take questions. While those are kind of floating in, I want to just turn to the workbook for those people who are going to grab it. Maybe you haven't gotten it yet, but now that you've seen this episode, you're going to go and get it. I want to just walk through chapter 1 workbook questions. Okay. So that people have clarity and understanding when they're filling these things out for themselves. So what is my understanding of my why is like the first question on page 1 of the workbook, right? I think that we've done a good job here of like talking through that. I showed you my little table about how I did that. I thought about internal and external purpose. I also thought about vision and impact based on how Jenn defined those things in the book, but you don't need the book. You don't need to go to that extent. If you can at least identify your why for your book in that first box, I think you're probably all set. Right. But Jenn, I wanted some clarity on these next 2 boxes. So on page 2, the first one is, how is this strategy aligned with my purpose? And then the next one is, how will this strategy move me closer to my vision? When you say strategy, what are we talking about yet? In my mind, like, I don't have my strategy built out yet. So like, how do I go about answering these questions for myself?
I would swap out the word strategy and perhaps put, how does this why align with my purpose? Or how does this vision align with my purpose? And what I love about going through this in real time with you is that I'm going to find flaws in my workbook, or flaws in the book, or you're going to find typos in the book. There's going to be something. So yes, I would say swap that out for, I think why is probably the best. Like, how is this why aligned with my purpose? Because if we're thinking about, like, a why almost precedes the purpose, because we can say, like, why am I writing this book, right? Like that's kind of like what the chapter covers. It's like, all right, just big picture, why are you writing this? And then you can say, all right, I'm writing this because I don't want someone to have the same experience I had. Great. All right, but why? Like, why does that matter?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next rung might be, well, it matters because when I was going through this experience and I was looking for other people to find relief or to find resources from, there really weren't anybody out. There was nobody out there. Okay. So why again? Like, okay, so what? There's nobody out there. Okay. Why? That then starts to lead into the me part. Like, okay, then why is it me that wants to be the one that is now going to fill that gap? Mm-hmm. And then you can say, well, I'm feeling called, or I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling transformed from my own experience. And I really feel this passion for wanting to do it. And the more we keep doing that, and it's Simon Sinek's, start with why, right? Like, it's really, this is not proprietary or new to me. It's just really starting with that understanding of what the why is, to then kind of go through to say, okay, how is this why now aligned with that purpose of impacting someone, getting more clients, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
And then we would change the last question then. So how does this why move me closer to my vision?
Mm-hmm. Or it could even be, how will this purpose move me closer to my vision? Or how will my purpose move me closer to my vision? Because for those who read the book, there's a lot more context to than just the 3 questions that are in the workbook. Yeah. So that does make it a little bit easier. The book should be available. I'm not going to make it available on online retailers for a while. It'll be available on the PYP website very, very soon. The ebook's already available. If anyone wants to go buy the ebook, you're welcome to. But so it does provide a little more clarity. So I'm glad that you're asking this, because now anyone who has the workbook, doesn't have the book, they can kind of go deeper into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, I'm going to answer these next questions for our next episode. And then maybe what we can do at the beginning of our next episode is kind of just recap some of the finer points of where we were from episode 1 before we launch into chapter 2 and episode 2's focus. So folks, go again, unscriptedforauthors.com is where you want to head, okay, to understand the calendar for the year and to opt in for the free workbook. Okay, folks, I'm going to stress this again. This is all free, okay, because Jen and I are insane. Like, most business coaches would be like, you two are mad. You're giving away the whole house and you're not charging for it. And you're damn right we are, because we're women of integrity in this industry who want to see people do this well. All right. Mm-hmm. So do not miss out on these episodes and this free workbook. Okay. It's freaking gold and it's for free. All right. With my little pitch aside,
we have a question.
We have someone in the comments who has said, I would love for Allie to repeat what she was saying about the book being a conversation with your ideal audience. I feel like I need to hear that again. Oh, I would be happy to say this again.
That's me twice.
I would be happy to say this again. If your book is the very first time anyone has ever heard from you or heard of you, this is a chance for you to woo them. Okay. Your book is a chance for them to get to know your heart, your mind, your soul. It doesn't even matter if it's prescriptive nonfiction. A little bit of that's going to happen inside that prescriptive nonfiction book if you've done it well, regardless of the genre, right? So this is a chance for your audience, who might be your ideal customer, if you're a business owner who's using the book to try to convert into sales eventually. This is a part of your lead funnel. This is a part of warming someone up to you. This is a part of getting them to know, like, and trust you. As I like to say, it's a love letter to your ideal person. Mm-hmm. It's a chance for you to never say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a phenomenal tool. And that's also why I think calling it a glorified business card, it cheapens the depth of a relationship that you can actually build with someone. And here's a good example. Shortly after Dear Universe came out, I had a gentleman who reached out to me through my website. He told me his whole story, and he said that he needed help putting it into a book. He was interested in ghostwriting at the time. Initially, we had like a free conversation, and then I offered to send him a free copy of my book, Dear Universe, I Get It Now. He reached back out after receiving it, and because he felt like he knew me, he knew my heart, he knew what I had been through, he knew my world perspective, he knew my value system because of how vulnerable I was on the page, he ended up buying a consultation that consultation turned into a full-fledged ghostwriting contract. One contract, and the book basically paid for itself.
Yeah. Such a great example.
Right?
Such a great example.
Now, one sale, free copy of the book, but the book made him know, like, and trust me in a whole other way to at least try that consultation. Lower offer, lower amount of time, really great way to test me, right? And by the time we were done that, he was like, you're my person.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
But it started with me just being authentic. I didn't know that, that he was going to come to my website and that I was going to then send him a free copy of the book. Like, that just felt like the right thing to do at the time. Like, and what I've always said with my memoir clients has been like, hey, you're about to tell me some serious shit. Like, and I've had people who are like, I've never even said that to my spouse, right? Yeah. Like, that's how deep my relationships go with my clients. So I am not going to sit over here and not give them a little bit of myself when they're giving me all of them.
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough the trust and the relationship building that a book can offer between you and the right person.
That is absolute gold. And what's interesting is Diane is saying in the comments, to me, it's more than a marketing strategy. It's a publishing strategy, guiding perhaps your book format or which platforms your book is available on. Could not agree more, Diane. That is exactly all of there has to be strategy with all of this. And to tie it back into what you were just saying, Allie, is that if our focus was on sales and sales alone, then you would have been like, ooh, I need to get that $20 from this book. I'm not going to give this copy to this person for free. I'm going to wait for them to buy it from me. And maybe they never would have bought it from you and you never would have had the trust and the mini engagement to the full engagement, right? So that is also a huge part of the strategy, which we will absolutely cover in great depth over the next 12 months, is going back to the strategy. Is giving your book away a strategy? Yes, for a lot of authors, it absolutely is. I absolutely give my book away nonstop. My publisher purpose book, I give away all of the time. And I've gotten a bunch of business as a result of it in the same exact way that you did with your memoir. So yes, Diane, it is absolutely, all of this is just a much bigger publishing strategy.
And can we also just like demystify something here for a moment?
Please.
Yeah. If you're like, but I really need that $20. Okay, let's think about the economics of this. The book doesn't cost $20 to produce it. That's the first thing. So you're not actually losing $20. Because if you're giving them one of your author copies, you probably got that at the cost of what it is to produce the book, which is more like 3 to 4. Let's be real.
Sure.
Okay. If you're thinking about the retail amount of $20, you don't make the full 20 on royalties as an author anyway. So people stuff the number. Stuff it. Like, seriously, it's a bunch of BS anyway. Smokescreen. It's getting you focused on completely the wrong thing because it's not $20 at face value.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're nickeling and diming each sale, each book, and missing the bigger picture, all right, going back to my example, right? Free book led to full consultation and then ghostwriting contract.
Yeah, that's right? A good bill.
Can you imagine if I had nickeled and dimed on that one copy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When thousands of dollars were on the line.
Just puts the wrong energy out there, right? Yeah. Depending on wherever anyone lands on the woo-woo scale over here, like the more positive energy we're putting out, the more we're going to get back. When we're operating from a place of scarcity, that is exactly what we're going to attract, is scarcity. So I am always of the mindset of give your book away for free. There are absolutely many, many exceptions to this, but generally speaking, that is usually my, you want to be strategic about it. You just want to be flailing about being yeah, go to my website and download my book for free. You don't want to be mindful and intentional about it. But ultimately, if your book is structured properly, going back to publishing strategy, which we will cover in a later chapter, when we think about the strategy, as long as your book actually does what you want it to do, which is captures your reader in such a concrete way that they're like, oh, I have to go follow Allie on the interwebs. I have to go check her out on LinkedIn. I have to go to her website. I have to go download this thing that she recommended. As long as your book is set up and designed to do that, you're in great shape. If you didn't put the thought into how that funnel and ecosystem works before you published your book, it might be a little bit trickier, but you can always go back and revise it later.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. The part that you said about thinking about it being intentional. You don't have to do it all the time. I haven't done that same thing all the time. Like I have kind of done it case by case. Is this a person that I think this would make a difference for? Right. Is this someone that I genuinely want to work with? They're really my ideal person. Like I'm going to throw them a bone. I want them to see that like, this is a good match. Right. I haven't necessarily every time somebody's gotten on a sales call with me, sent them a free copy of the book.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been relevant. And sometimes they've already gotten the copy. They're coming to me after they've seen or read the book, right? So then it's like redundant. So, you do have to rely a little bit on your intuition, a little bit on, does this make sense? Your filtration system, etc. But, do not shortchange the power of your book to start the conversation.
That feels like a very nice, punctuation mark to end this on. I like that.
It's like
unless there's another question, right?
Yeah. Do you have any other questions before we wrap up at the top of the hour here? We've got 3 minutes to go.
And I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that we've started off with an active and participation over here. This is a wonderful way to start our January and our new, season where we have our merchandise with our cats' faces on it and our background and our video and all the fun things.
So huge shout outs to Christy, Diane, Lynn, and the LinkedIn user. For whatever reason, your name's not showing up, for joining us this morning and being active in the conversation, showing up live, going to download the workbook, and hopefully going to tell all of your author friends that they should not miss this season of Unscripted with Allie and Jen, because this is gold. And can I also just say that there's something in the air because I feel like everywhere I have turned, other people in the industry are focusing on helping authors market right now. Yeah.
Well, it's because everyone's a mess. We're all a mess. Everyone's doing it a little differently. So explore. I say that to folks all the time, explore, look at who's out there, who the experts are, talk to people, see what programs or what type of support you need. Do your homework and the due diligence to figure out what's going to feel good for you. Oh, Diane loves the cats. Yes.
I know. Yes. Aren't they so cute?
And they have names. So
pages, and lines.
We're so creative.
We are so clever. And look at how cute they are. And I'm not even guilty about this. This is an AI generated image based off of our actual cats.
Yeah. And I think it's perfect. And I love that Pages is reading a book called Live Show Scripts because Pages is very studious. And her sassy pants have not walked down your hallway yet today. I know,
Sassy Pants has not joined us. She's somewhere hiding, I'm sure. Although usually when the camera comes on, she's right there.
Well, mine came in like a wrecking ball earlier. She was just a little low to the ground, so she moved out quick.
No, she's off, doing something really important, I'm sure.
Yes, obviously.
Licking herself.
Writing my next book.
Napping.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So we are going to be live again with episode 2. Let's see, February 12th. Yep. Okay. February 12th. All right. If you're going to have a copy of the ebook that you're reading along, it's chapter 2, basically is the focus. If you're going to go get that free workbook, it's pages 3 and 4. You don't have to, and 5. And you don't have to fill it ahead of time because that's the material we're going to be talking about on the actual episode. Yep. So certainly take a glance at it, have a sense of where we're going next. But don't feel the pressure that you've got homework to do by the time the episode begins. If anything, I would probably focus on chapter 1. Now that you've seen this episode. And then of course, this is going to be living on our LinkedIn pages and on our YouTube pages. And so if you wanted to go back and re-listen for some of the nuggets and wisdom that we captured here today to help you fill out the workbook, then totally do that. And feel free to leave more comments. We're going to see if you put something in there, retroactively. So we'll be keeping an eye on things. All right. Well, here's to the start of a new year. Here's to all of you fabulous authors doing the hard work of marketing and promoting your book with purpose.
Yes.
We'll see you.
Yeah. Love it. All right. We'll see you soon. All right. Bye.